So you know how easy it is to go down rabbit holes. Oh my gosh, it's so easy to go down rabbit holes. You go down them forever and you never come up for air, and then you die in the rabbit holes. I mean, that's what goes on out there in politics, religion, and science, is that there are a million rabbit holes go down and people are lost down in them. They don't get any air, totally lack of oxygen, and they starve, or what do you call it, get asphyxiated. So I'm going down the rabbit holes of antibiotics, right? Trying to figure out what's the first antibiotic that we know about. And of course, everything goes all the way back to antiquity. And even then, the first antibiotic that's recorded that was known at least in 600, 27, 2100, 2600 BC, we know that feces and herbs and other heavy metals were used back then. And then as you keep moving through history, then there's all these different plagues, right? And then the petri dish gets washed, so you have a better prototype to work from. And then you have intelligence and inventions and wars and all that. And then the petri gets washed again by another pandemic. Then you're seeing now a pattern emerge. Okay, so I'm thinking like, okay, so there is the COVID-19. Prior to that, 1918 flu pandemic. Prior to that was then like other different little small pandemics. But then there was the bubonic plague. And that was prior to the Age of Enlightenment. And then I'm looking at Einstein. And Einstein was born in 1879. His parents had him when they were born in the 1800s too. But it was, well, a little later than the 1800s. But then his grandparents, Einstein's grandparents, came from the Age of Enlightenment. Okay? They came from the Age of Enlightenment, which means that he had really smart genetics. Not a lot of genetic predispositions, though. You had behavioral problems, but you still had the smarts. Okay? And so he had DNA from those that came out of that era of Copernicus. Well, I'll not say Copernicus, but Age of Enlightenment. There was a lot of, well, Copernicus came out of the 1400s. But then you have all those different people. Let me see. Inventors of the Middle Ages. Bacon, Gutenberg, shit. Inventions in the Middle Ages. I guess if I wanted to go in, oh lordy. I'm going to look up, let's say Galileo. Galileo, astronomer. Galileo, year. 1546, 1642. That's the Age of Enlightenment. Because what's the Age of Enlightenment? It's like 1600 to, what is it? To 18 something, right? So you have Galileo. Okay, and who else? Who else is in Galileo? Copernicus is 1470. Another astronomer. I'm going to say famous astronomers. Famous astronomers. Kepler, 1571 to 1630. Tycho Brahe, 1546 to 1601. Edwin Hubble, 1889 to 1953. Edmund Halley, 1656 to 1742. William Herschel, 1738 to 1822. Isaac Newton, okay, 1643 to 1727. Carl Sagan, 1934 to, and let's see, 42 more rows. Holy crap, you have Messier, Ptolemy, Leavitt, Cannon. I mean, there's a bunch of them. There's Hipparchus. Well, those are back in the BC days. Laplace, 1700, 1800. Hale, 1868 to 1938. William Huggins, Bessel. So the Age of Enlightenment came after the bubonic plague several hundred years, because, of course, the bubonic plague just decimated 1300 or something, decimated the whole land, and so people have to recover from something like that. So that could be, a couple hundred years of recovering, and then you have the nice clean petri dish, and then you have more innovation, more intelligence. That's why you had such smart people coming out of the Middle Ages, because right after the bubonic plague, Age of Enlightenment. And then you had residual in the 1900s. That's where you have the Einstein and all that. And then we've perfected things in biotech and looked at history and how pandemics clean the petri dish. And so we're in another pandemic, another cleansing of the petri dish, of which then maybe 100 years, maybe less than that, or 200 years, whatever, we're going to have another innovative explosion of intellect. But what kind of people and what will our society look like? That we will see. We can kind of see the movies giving us a taste of what the future is going to be like. And there's going to be the haves and the have-nots and the intellectuals and those that are just like the slave class. And we know that's going to happen because you can't control everyone. But if history is any kind of indicator of what we're dealing with today, yeah, we're in another petri dish cleansing. Okay? So this is definitely like the Spanish flu and definitely like the pandemic, the bubonic plague. And then you saw all the innovation come out of the Middle Ages. Astronomers, physicists, biologists, ethologists. Okay? And so antibiotics, now where am I going with this as far as antibiotics? Where the antibiotics dumbed down a lot of society. And so that's why they had to keep developing new ones, right? That's the reason why Alexander Fleming had to create penicillin or develop penicillin, because the other stuff that was used, like mercury and other heavy metals and bacteria, were overdone. There was antibiotic resistance. People were getting not only infection, but they were getting, they couldn't handle it. Allergic reactions. So then they had to go invent another antibiotic. And that's why you're seeing in the medical holistic system the constant development of the new cures, the new antibiotics. Oh yeah, this is the latest and greatest, whether it's, in an injectable form or if it's something that you inhale or as a pill that you take. They can come in all different forms, but antibiotic's antibiotic. Okay? It's made to attack whatever feelings that you get as far as evolution and regrowth. And so you feel this relative equilibrium, but then it really works against you later on. And it develops monsters inside your body. It develops vast amount of monsters and serial killers and children. And so what got me on this kick was because I'm writing right now about the ranch of the Rosicrucians. That's exactly the ranch of the Rosicrucian order. Because we are in a petri dish, an animal farm, human animal farm, that we are constantly reconfiguring the petri dish and all of the infrastructure to develop a very productive, innovative, advanced, mature society with people who are peaceful, who are not dying and constantly reproducing and can take in new information and adapt and evolve. And then we will, advance society to such an extent that we won't need to have so many people do the menial labor, which is the contribution of, which is the foundation of suffering. Okay? Like when you have animals that are not super intelligent, but they're made to just do the work, they're not going to want to just plow a field. Can you imagine? Like that elephant that went and it attacked its trainer because it was forced to work in aggressive heat. We've enslaved not only our children, but our friends and family, but we've enslaved our animals. And we've made them to be, beasts of burden. And that's suffering. And so imagine when you have a population that is digging ditches, that's mining for coal, that's out there in the elements all the time, doing heavy, intensive labor. That's fucking suffering. That's what destroys societies, when you have that much suffering, because we haven't advanced as a species in our infrastructure as well as in our biology. And so the petri dish has to get cleaned because there's too much fucking suffering. There is some kind of element of innovation in suffering, but we have overdone it. There is now so much suffering that we can't even seem to get people over the next hump. And so they get lost in their pleasures and lost in their distractions, and then they keep suffering. They keep suffering. And they take everyone down with them. That sucks. That's hard to watch. And so we have to advance society in body, mind, and spirit. Seriously. And so, we need to obviously trigger the next age of enlightenment. I mean, I know we're in the age of experience, but that's just watching people become the outcome of their lifestyle. They're going to go jump off the buildings and skydive and not pull the chute properly and end up splat. Or you have people that are doing stupid shit on TikTok, or you can have kids do whatever they do and they won't survive because they're not, they don't have enough experience to understand what they're doing. And you have parents who just, are oblivious, and their kids are going to do whatever they're going to do. And so we're going to watch now the decline of our civilization. But then from the decline of our civilization and watching the petri dish basically self-destruct, there's going to be an eventual age of enlightenment. We'll call it something different. It won't be age of enlightenment. It'll call it, age of, I don't know. The age of re-enlightenment. Something. But before we get to the age of re-enlightenment, we're going to see the age of experience, the age of decline, the age of fucking reckoning. That's what we're watching right now, is the age of reckoning. But you have to be aware that's what you're in right now. You are in the bubonic plague era. You are in the 1918 Spanish flu with the First World War and the Second World War, but in a different way. Now you don't need to have everybody at war. You just need to turn up the freaking frequencies. Now you have, the same kind of thing, but in a different way. And people will get their cancer, disease, and chronic illness and or self-implode. It's pretty amazing. All right, that's it. Bye.